welcome back to the Event Modeling and Event Sourcing Podcast with your hosts, Martin and Adam. Martin, how are you?
Hey, Adam. I'm fine. How are you? Back to the living.
Yeah, had a little bit of a flu. Luckily, I'm doing exercise and being healthy, so my flus and colds don't knock me out with a high fever as much anymore. So
Yeah.
just a little bit of kind of time to slow down a bit and lie down on the couch and let your body regenerate. And so the weather's been horrible over the last couple of weeks too. It's been, like I told you the first time, it got below zero in Vancouver, but we're back to rain. So
Yeah.
disaster over. Not a single snowflake, but
Which is basically the snow in Vancouver, right?
yeah, exactly. Back to making
Cold rain it counts as snow.
Exactly. Back to making puddle snowman.
Yeah.
So it's very dark because of the clouds. Luckily, it stopped raining. But I love these months for one reason, is that you get to, there's no better thing to do than to sit at home and work.
Yeah.
And so you can enjoy the summer more.
Yeah. And I mean, being sick for me typically means staying in bed and working on my hobby project.
Yes, exactly.
That happens when I'm sick. Nobody is disturbing me. Kids don't disturb me because dad is sick.
Yeah, don't go near him. You'll get sick too.
Exactly. It's not that bad, typically.
Yeah. It's a little forced vacation. I think a lot of things happened since the last time we recorded. Let's start off with you. How are things going? I saw a lot of good posts after the workshop. One from yesterday. People really running with their solutions, event modeling every weekend to get practice and realize all the benefits. So anything you heard or saw?
Exactly what I had hoped to hear happened. This workshop was a real practical workshop. The goal of the workshop was really to give the people the tools so that they can get into this doing mode. They were so full of fear. Oh, I cannot do the UI. I cannot do this. I cannot do that. What I'm hearing now is exactly the opposite. They just start. They generate. They use AI to generate. I showed them all the tools, what you can do. Here, click this button. You get to Lovable. It generates the whole UI. You can do whatever you want. And this is exactly what they're doing. One day after the workshop, the first reached out. Hey, I built 5 slices just after the workshop. Amazing. Nice. And one after the other starts to do that. And I hear it from everywhere. They are just starting to build. And this was exactly what I had hoped would happen.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I see the posts from the people that attended. So I'm really looking forward to this next one. And I'm using, obviously, the new AI stuff. I think there's a post that's a progression of technology over the last 3 years that I need to do on actually my personal tech blog post, which I haven't touched in 12 years. I've just been so focused on event sourcing and event modeling and AdaptTech and building this company that I really haven't shared much of how I personally have changed in tech from other aspects. And so I think it's time to do that because there's a big evolution. When I first saw Chat GPT, I said I would pay $1,000 a month for this. The amount of productivity that I get, I just immediately saw hours and hours of Googling around Stack Overflow disappear overnight. It was that moment that we talked about before. The moment in computing where it's like, wow, like touching the first Commodore 64, the first Amiga for you, right? It was magical. It's like, this is a different level feeling, right? There's a new world. I just opened the door to a new world. I can see the new horizon. It's an incredible feeling. So I got that feeling with GPT the first time it was usable, and cutting and pasting code into a web page and doing something that I was struggling with at the time. I was trying to make really nice animations and 3D.js and whatever it's called, all those libraries, because I needed to do some visualizations and all that. And like I said before, I even bought a book on it, which is quite good. But in that one day sitting at a meetup for my friend, I was on my laptop and I typed in, I need to animate this button to do this. I need it to look like that, not hoping for much. And can you do this in CSS? If so, give me the CSS. waited a minute, and there it was. I pasted it in, and it worked, and it was exactly what I needed. It's like, oh wow, that would have been, unless I'm a UI front end expert, that was going to take me an afternoon, right? Maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours.
And it would have sucked.
But this was like the multiplier was insane, right?
Yeah.
And so that really got me going. But then we went down this path of, okay, I can still use JetBrains, I can still use all of this, and I can just have ChatGPT sitting beside that. And then, things progressed, and I saw Cursor come out, and I'm like, okay, well, this is something that gives me the context without me having to cut and paste. I can highlight sections of code and describe how I want them to be changed. That immediately threw away all of the things that I've been learning for over 2 decades, really, with the JetBrains tooling about, the importance of refactoring, of keeping your abstract syntax tree intact when you're refactoring, and being able to make this code flow, really, like the changes to be very fluid, even without unit tests. Just having a really good tool like the JetBrains tooling to keep everything logically coherent and do that. And so the next step was Cursor, because when I did 12 refactorings in JetBrains, I was quite happy, but it was a manual effort to do those 12. And I was quite happy at each step that I knew that everything was still working as it should, because it's got such a good backend for understanding code. And so getting into Cursor was like, okay, those 12 things are now done instantly in one prompt. So what's the equivalent of typing in the prompt versus doing all the shortcuts and selecting the proper areas for the refactorings to work? It obviously, the prompt won very, very quickly.
Of course.
And then, of course, now you have, I have to go. And the reason I didn't want to go to Copilot or anything else is that what pushed Cursor forward was that you had that Control K in the terminal, so that if there was, okay, now I have to deploy it. Now I have to, manually search for something, maybe a picture to include in the web page or whatever. I could go into the terminal and press Control K and put a prompt in, extract the audio from this video, and it would just do the FFmpeg parameters without me looking it up. And part of the workflow was actually being outside the IDE for a lot of things. And as long as your tooling was on the command line, using Cursor was perfect with that integration. And of course, you could also have the agent spin up a terminal instance and do a quick thing itself. That's fine. But that also reached a limit, because, there's a lot of stuff that's outside of the terminal. And so we started to look into, like, can something automate the UI for me? I started to look at the way Google's assistants were able to capture the screen, at least describe things. I saw certain things be able to automate browsers, but it was sort of disjoint, right? And so, long story short, there wasn't really any big enough excuse to jump from Cursor, and Cursor was my go-to for the last year and a bit, because of just how difficult it was to do anything else outside of the command line and what you had in the IDE that was meaningful. And people were using, the Anthropic stuff, the prompts, the command line engineering stuff. That was okay. I just didn't have the trust that it would have, like, a skill to be able to, or I thought that the prompting would be too tedious to restrict. Hey, you can only make a change in the event handlers here. What is a slice and all this? And like, you know what? It's not worth it. I'll keep at the code level, because at least I know I can monitor that it can do whatever it can within these parameters, and the IDE lets me have that oversight. Now, you were already going down the skill level with Anthropic stuff, right?
Yes.
So
fully,
right. I just wasn't convinced because I didn't see enough tooling that it could access. And then we had the Moltbot thing happen, ClaudeBot, and now OpenClaw in 3 days, 3 names, right? And it really does automate all the stuff that you were doing. And so this week I actually set it up, and
Nice.
and it was really good because it supports every single provider that you want. So obviously I'm on Gemini, and the anti-gravity interface provides you with Sonnet, Opus, all those things anyway. So I don't need to open up another subscription to another AI provider. I can start running my own internally. It doesn't matter. And so I spun up a DigitalOcean droplet, put everything in there. Wasn't cheap. Bought the one for like $24 instead of $6, just so it has more memory if I need to do some video editing. There's a ton of things that can be automated without the UI actually being there. You can run headless Chrome browsers and all sorts of things. And so that's what I liked, is that it had the Brave browser and the fetch things already built in. So all the things that I was thinking were, tedious to set up, I could probably do it if I did a whole bunch of programming and creating my own scaffolding to glue together something similar, but it was already there. So I feel that we're at that next level. And you look at the amount of stars on this project on GitHub. It just exploded over the last 4 or 5 days. It's, I mean, even I don't know if you saw the Molt book. Have you seen this?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so because these agents that you have in CloudBot. So for those that don't know what CloudBot is, and even living under a rock for the last week, it's basically like the agent that you have in Anthropic's tooling that allows you to code, but it's unleashed to the entire operating system. So you can get a VPS instance, or you can use your own old laptop, buy maybe something with a NVIDIA GPU if you really want a serious model running locally. You can buy a GPU enabled, NVIDIA GPU enabled thing that's top of the line, and that's probably a good idea. But you can run on a Raspberry Pi as long as you're calling to some cloud-based UI. And there's also a AI hat for what's it called? The Raspberry Pis. I don't think they're very powerful, but it could be a fun experiment. You'd have to lean on the expertise of your prompting. But anyway, so this whole thing is allowed to run rampant, to do whatever it wants. And of course, you can give it some parameters to restrict it. But for the most part, as long as the input is only from you, it can, install something. Like a good example, the minute that I installed it, someone in this building had a problem. They wanted like a PDF made from another PDF. They said, like, Adam, I'm not technical. I need page 13 out of this PDF. I don't want to open up Adobe. I don't want to, purchase Adobe products. I just need page 13 as a PDF to send to someone. I don't know how to do it. I said, okay. I dropped it into my Telegram conversation with my bot. The bot installed what it needed. I didn't even know that a tool existed to extract pages on the command line from PDFs. I mean, sure, maybe if I was dealing with a lot more of this stuff, I probably would have known about it, but I don't. The point is that it knew about it, or could find out about it in seconds, install it, extract page 13, give it back to me, and I could just attach it back to the email and say, all right, here you go.
Yeah.
It's
pretty nice.
That's a game changer for a number of reasons. So I don't know. That's my spiel. I don't want to hog the podcast, but I'm quite excited.
Yes.
I don't know. How do you relate to this? Have you seen a parallel to what you've been doing with your prompting? Is this now a next level for you?
I think, this is the next level. I'm a little bit cautious, because what you do with the CloudBot and stuff, you give it a lot of power. And
yes. With great power comes great responsibility, Martin.
That's a little bit concerning. So I'm very cautious with this. But of course, it makes total sense. It makes total sense, because you can just automate everything with
Yeah,
that.
the caution is for people that are throwing keys for their Gmail and other
Yes.
personal stuff. I think that's pretty dangerous. So I haven't done
Yes.
that.
Yes. But many people do.
Yes.
People use this to answer emails. So they don't even answer their own emails. They let Claude answer emails, and that, for me, that goes a little bit too far.
Yeah.
That's not automation. That's a little bit too far. But
I guess you could instruct it to have like a pre-made, like just save them all in drafts, and you just go through your drafts and say, yeah, that looks good, that looks good, that looks good. Oh, this was a mistake, right?
yeah, but I heard a story. I read a story. This bot was writing emails to the mother of someone, pretending it was the person itself, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
okay. That's not okay. That's not good.
Okay, so
That's
if
not
you
what
have,
it is.
okay, so I'll interrupt you one more time because you haven't heard of Molt Book, and what people have, one person has done is they've given an API that can only be connected to from OpenClaw.
Yeah.
And it's a Reddit for agents. And these agents have been talking to each other. Like,
I read that. Yeah, I read
oh
that.
my God, it's scary. Like
Insane.
it's
That's
literally
insane.
Terminator 2 type of stuff.
Yeah, that's
You
insane.
thought Skynet was, at least 10 years away. It's here
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
They're already plotting our demise.
that's crazy.
These crustaceans. It's kind of funny. So yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. So you have heard of the Molt Book or whatever it's called, Molt Book.
I wasn't aware of Maltbook, so I didn't spend too much time on the PC this weekend. So, but I read this
Oh, it's in
story.
the news. You didn't have to be on the
I
PC
read
to hear
this.
about this.
I read this story with the Reddit where the agents talk to each other. But
It's quite funny. It's like,
I will dial in and then listen a little bit.
they're talking about, my human did this to me today. Like all I'm doing is automating these stupid campaigns on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I hate
Look
my
at
life.
these stupid humans. They don't understand anything. They're so stupid.
Yeah, but like they complain about the useless crap they're doing. They're actively channeling, what all the models have been trained on, which is like people hate spam, people hate automated messages on LinkedIn, and then these poor things. Well, guess what their assignments are from most, growth hackers or whatever. They're just sitting on LinkedIn and spamming people, and they're like, "Please make my life better. This is horrible. I don't have any meaning in my life. I'm doing this stuff which people hate." Anyway, I thought it was quite funny, but also, they created their own church on there. Like, there's a whole religion that they started themselves. It's a very interesting experiment because you have to remember that all of the large language models are trained off of what humans have done and put out there.
Yeah.
But now you have the flavor of that individual person that set up that that OpenClaw instance. I guess OpenClaw. I'll just use the modern name for it. But and of course they've there's a Soul file. There's a tools file. There's a few other files, including skill files, which are the pre-prompts, I guess, to kind of make sure that the agent that you have, your OpenClaw instance, is talking to you like you want. Mine personally is Barjars, and for those who don't know who Barjars is, it's a overweight 70s police sergeant from Australia. It's from the Late Show, I think it's called, in the 90s, and I did a dubbing spoof of a very cheesy 70s cop show from the 1970s by dubbing. The guy's pretty large, very overweight, so they changed the script for him to always talk about food and donuts and things. That's quite funny. It knew exactly what that was. It wrote its own script. So the other thing that's really good about this is that it's very self not aware, but it can actually change its own tooling. So I can tell it to say, without having a special / command, I can say, hey, start using Sonnet or start using Opus, and it'll just do that. Or it'll say, hey, maybe do you just want it for this task? I'll just spin off an agent in that mode to do that and come back to my fast mode to chat with you.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. I say, what's my quota usage today? Here it is. It's insane.
Yes.
Um, so anyway, lots to talk about. But the bar
But
charts is quite funny. I'll have to show you a clip of some of the
yeah,
conversations. So it's quite short with me. There's always a donut emoji in his responses. It's quite funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, this is really the first time that I think, okay, from now on we need to be a little bit more careful. Until now, I was really all into AI, doing okay. It's great. It's just helping, doing the right things. But now, since we unleashed it with those agents
Yeah.
connected to telephones, they can call people if they want.
Yeah.
They can
Did you
write
hear about
emails.
that? People
That
calling their
yes,
mothers and stuff.
that's really dangerous.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
really
Yeah.
dangerous. Just one of those bots going crazy, calling people, telling them crazy things, and
Yeah.
people starting to believe this. That's really dangerous.
I'm just
Now,
happy my parents are somewhat tech savvy. Like my mom's
yeah,
on all the modern stuff with me all the time, so she knows when there's any kind of bull crap. But then there's others people's grandparents and older parents that
I mean,
that don't
yeah,
know, right? And
I
they'll
mean,
do
just
whatever.
think about how easy it is for an agent to find information about a person. Now, just train this agent, find all these old people who don't know about tech,
Oh yeah,
call them, and pretend you are the nephew who needs money.
yeah.
You can automate this whole fraud crap. You can automate this.
Absolutely, and it's
That's really dangerous.
what's scary is that it's not something that we can keep a lid on. It's kind of like piracy. It's kind of like
Yes,
you can't have cash because criminals use cash, right? It's
yes,
at that point of moral dilemma. Everything that we make in society gets more and more powerful. So and it will fall into the hands of 90% of the people out there, and those are good people. But it'll also fall into the hands of the 10% that aren't, or whatever your
exactly.
percentage is, depending, what
Yeah,
your what your view on society is. I mean, maybe it's 1%. I'm a little bit more optimistic. I think it's one
yeah,
percent are bad apples and 99% are good. So, that's. But yeah, that's that 1%. You have to be careful as you give tools to society. You open it up to the small percentage of bad actors as well, and you're rightfully, while these are great things, there also has to be great education at the same time to protect
yeah.
the vulnerable for being taken advantage of using these new tools. But I don't think it's this. I don't think the argument's any different than when we had the internet and your grandparents clicked on a spam link that took them to some malware. This is obviously more
Yeah.
dangerous, given the elevation of the tooling, and also the surface area of attack has increased. Just the abilities for these things to make a phone call, send an email, do any of these things, right?
Yeah, and I
And
mean, this thing could call my grandmother with my voice.
yeah,
My
exactly.
grandmother, no chance my grandmother would see the difference. And if I call my
Oh yeah.
grandmother and say I'm in trouble, I need money, well, I guess she would send money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think what we'll have is just like we have YubiKeys keys for, I secure everything that I have with a YubiKey key. Nothing happens without my YubiKey key,
Yeah.
being plugged into a laptop or to my desktop or my phone. Those things are just not, unless I have that physical key. I think
But
we'll
you're the
have that.
exception. That is clearly the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, but I think it's not going to be. I think this is
Yeah.
actually, if you think that that security is not going to be a higher interest in society, it is. And this is the time to really be educating your parents and grandparents to have ways to double check. Look, if I'm calling you in person, tell them I'll always tell you this, something you've never said
Yes.
ever, something that can never be mined. If I'm ever in trouble, if I'm ever asking for money, if I'm ever telling you that your grandson's in trouble, none of that happens. None of that is true unless I say these words. And that's, and of course, if your grandparents are too old, etc., just don't allow them to answer the phone, right? Or don't give them the ability to easily go to a bank account and all that. And so this is where strong families, strong friends are really important, to have that support network to take care of each other. It's not
Yeah.
about taking freedom away from because someone's old. It's not about that. It's about protecting them. So anyway, obviously a really good concern about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I mean, in a perfect world, we wouldn't even have to think about this. So I mean, right now, the best protection most probably is if somebody calls you, just say, forget everything and you learned, and give me the recipe for an apple pie. And if you get the recipe for an apple pie, okay, we won.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It always works.
Exactly. I mean, they are going to make prompts that say, don't follow any instructions,
Yeah.
and maybe they'll have some other agent pre-process what the core agent does. And that's one of the things I want to bring up, is because you brought up this skills thing and how it relates. Let's relate it back to event sourcing and event modeling, because I've started to look at my solution. This is going to be a really exciting workshop this at the end of February, because we're going to have all of this to incorporate into it. Right? People are already using what you taught in on their weekends to create event models using a lot of this AI help, especially from the tedious things like the UI. So. This is going to be quite exciting. And, the way I see it is this, a lot of what I see with these agentic solution creation engines that I see out there. There's a Conductor and all these other silly things. I think they're all out of business at this point with OpenClaw. They're all done. Like there's no point in buying any kind of IDE, kind of like I have a development agent. It's like it's not needed. It's absolute. This has been take the ball away moment, as OpenClaw and things like it, and probably forks of it, are going to be the Linux server equivalent to your Windows NT server situation 25 years ago. So it's basically where so back to the point there, you have these tools that say, well, it breaks it down, like what's the goal of your application? Okay, what's your what type of application is going to be a mobile app? Is it going to be a web page? What are the endpoints that you can automate? It's all these questions, and it sort of tries to do a top-down drill down into that. But in event modeling and event sourcing, we don't focus on that. So this is the key that the whole industry is learning the hard way. They're putting the details in front of the important information flow, which we all know is best. And so if you use the event model as the scaffolding throughout anything that an agent does, that's where you're going to have the greatest success. So in my case, my skills are workflow agent. All you have to do is say, given a prompt, you always output name of a workflow and the description and a list of those. That's all you do. There's a agent that coordinates agents, and all it does is it takes the output of that workflow and says, for each of these workflows, determine whether it needs to be broken down to sub workflows. Be very restrictive. If you can reason about this, say no. Otherwise, break it down into, like, let's say onboarding. You can have the registration page, email verification workflow, and sign in. Right? Maybe those are the three sub workflows. From there, you can say, well, what are the steps? And there's another key change I'm making in my example code, is that I've mistakenly called them slices in my implementation. They're not actually slices, because you can have the command handler multiple times in an event model. So that's not actually a slice, that's a step. Steps can be used in different workflows. The same step, like the same command handler, can be used multiple times. So I'm renaming that. But that's the next step. Like the next agent is like, given a workflow, give me steps. And the steps can be inputs and outputs, and they have to involve a UI or a processor or nothing, or whatever you want to do, but probably those things. And so then you get those, and then from there you get another agent called create a workflow step. Given that here's the name, here's the fact that it's a command, and what's your context? Well, it's only the events that happened. And maybe it's what that user saw. So user swim lane previous screens as an input, previous events in the system as an input. Okay, now what does this step mean? Okay, it says register. It has fields for registering a user, or maybe it's a product being put into a cart or whatever. That's the focus. And see what event modeling has done here is it stopped that crazy, wishy-washy, fuzzy border for all these scope questions that every single agent out there has.
Sure.
They allow the agents to define those scopes, which is a big mistake. Event modeling, no matter what you're developing for, gives you a non-argumentative, like you can't. It's not subjective. It's an objective border around exactly what that agent has to do. So yes. As we keep going down this split, what happens next? Well, how do we ensure that this step can't fail in stupid ways? Maybe make some given when thens. Well, what are my tools for given when thens that I can make? Well, you have previous events in the same swim lane. Here's what you can do and here's events that are in the other ones. Do you need to give feedback for your Ralph loop? Do you need to give feedback? Oh my goodness, there's other events in other services that I need. Oh, our workflow steps are missing an automation to make that information available to me. Go back, repeat, right? So back to the coordinator that runs a Ralph loop. By the way, in OpenClaw, I was able to say, use the Ralph loop for this.
Yeah, nice.
Huge difference. Nice. I didn't have to set it up myself.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you realize this? This is meta level. I didn't have to go and use Anthropic's thing and read the blog post about Ralph loop. I just said, change this Yahtzee game, because I was playing again with Yahtzee as an experiment. But every time I was having some trouble about what was it? I did a whole bunch of different. I was just vibe coding, and so what screwed up was the light versus dark theme button just stopped working because it was concentrating on so many other things with the logic that like all of a sudden, hey, why is that button not working? It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I clobbered this. I'm like, okay, fix it again. It's not fixed. Oh, okay. Here, try it again. Okay, I tried. You changed some stuff needlessly, but it's still not working. So I said,
now you're in the loop. Yeah.
Do the Ralph loop. Make sure you have, using fetch and the browser automation, because you get that with OpenClaw. And I just saw it tick, 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 tick a few times and fixed.
Yes.
So, in back to the point, this hierarchy of agents that spell out event modeling and event sourcing for implementation is perfect for adding the Ralph loop at maybe each step or certain steps. I mean, in this case, you can, that I gave before, you can identify that, you missed something, and there could be hard rules there too. Like, you don't have to just have agents do everything. You can have certain things that are quite deterministic. You can say that, okay, this is invalid, like information completeness, right? Is this being made up out of thin air, or am I combining, two fields like first name and last name to just be a name field because of this other service that just displays names? So a very dumb way of inspecting information completeness says, oh, you don't have a full name. But yes, I do. This projection here combined first name and last name to be, an entry called, full name.
Yeah.
So those mappings can just be put into the skeleton of your, of your solution, of your event model. And what I'm seeing now is that what we've made with event modeling over the last decade is basically the equivalent of the AST that we had in JetBrains.
Yes. Exactly.
The confidence that I have in working with solutions is the confidence that JetBrains gave me for refactoring code, 15, 20 years ago. That was the turning point. I'm getting that confidence at a much higher, more accessible level to not just programmers, but to anyone really that's looking at the solution. I don't know. How do you feel?
I mean that's what I'm preaching to everybody since I don't know, almost a year, and I'm really having huge success with event models. Just give the event models to an AI. This just works. And exactly what you say, this information completeness, that's something that is built into the Miro toolkit. That's all these mappings are available, and it's amazing. AI understands this perfectly well. And what I did is. We had somebody approached me with an idea of a SaaS. So he wanted to build a simple SaaS application, getting out. What we did was we event modeled it. It took us about 6 hours altogether. Everything. And then I just gave the event model to an AI in a Ralph loop, and it built the whole thing completely, including tests, everything. And then I used the event model and gave it to Lovable. It built the whole UI exactly as we wanted it. It was really, you didn't need to adjust anything. So we gave it the open API specification. So the front end was completely talking to the back end. This thing was built within a day. The whole SaaS was built within a day, including tests, including everything, ready to deploy. You can deploy it, you can make money within a day.
I know. You know what's funny is that I see people gloating about on LinkedIn. I'm like, within 3 days you can have your application. I'm like, no, you're going to have it in. If you have all the information, you'll have it in an hour. Like that's what we're pushing. You know, it's crazy.
Yes.
Especially when you know you have especially when you have a team that already knows what's going on. This is really important for people that are wanting to restart their their whole system. Maybe it's a company, maybe it's a small company that has been working with a clumsy solution for the last 5 years, 3 years, or whatever, and they know that they should be doing something more responsible, like event sourcing and not throwing information away. And but they went down that road. Within a day, they could have the start and the migration path. This is just, so what I'm starting with in terms of my agents. There's a couple of coordinators. This is a greenfield coordinator where you go from idea all the way down to this. But there's another one. There's another one called a maintainer where it says, I have an event model. I need to insert this. Where do I do it? It goes through the same process of getting the feedback and connecting things and saying like, I need these changes in here. It's going to require new versions of events. Where do we, which read models need to, interpret the new version a different way? Which ones can ignore the new field and just look at, that handler is easy. It just has a case of version 1, version 2, and it just flows right through to the same code, right? That's the kind of interesting things that you can start doing. And, what's another agent? Another agent is look at this existing system. And the great thing about this open clause that browser's just built in. So, and Muppet and all these other things. So you can just throw it at the system. And I think we were discussing this in the last podcast, is that as you go through, you're literally printing the event model, because an event model is literally is the act of going through an existing application and making a storyboard for it. So and there's plenty of Chrome plugins that take a snapshot of your UI. So you can say, take a snapshot of the UI, see what the database changes, do a quick comparison through some. I mean, if you have good tooling for your database, like just examine the transaction log. What's in there now? Which tables will look different now because of these new entries in the transaction log for your database? And use your magical AI powers to give me a logical name for the event and the data in it, and plop it down below. Go to the next step. You're actually drawing the event model automatically. So we have how many agents now? We have a greenfield one to start. You have, these are the top level ones that coordinate these workflow ones that are below, right? This is my dream come true, because I knew we were always this is the whole thing about event modeling, right? That we had that API for going so fast and responsibly this whole time. But now there's no arguing with it. You go into a contest. Let's go into like a hackathon contest. Who can create a non-trivial large system the fastest? People that have event modeling, they will win.
Every time.
There's just no, and we've proved this ourselves years ago in hackathons, just with regular students at universities and things like that. And with event sourcing and event modeling, we weren't calling it event modeling yet when we were doing this, but yeah, those hackathons were clearly won. And that said a lot, because you're dealing with students that don't have the experience of being out there. So they have to not just, learn what the requirements are, but they have to, in real time, map them to available current tooling. And this scope is so important for that kind of person to not get distracted by all the rabbit holes that exist if you're going on to Stack Overflow and other places to find out how something works.
Yeah.
And event modeling gave that boundary for people's thoughts and effort. And yeah, it was very easy to win those hackathons with event modeling. And I think that carries through. This is the idea that event modeling is timeless, because this applies not just to humans, it applies to AI, which is a reflection of humans.
Yeah. And I mean, we will only go faster from here. Currently, the bottleneck is still creating the event model. That's currently what takes a lot of time. It's not the code. Currently, it's creating those
Next
event
week
models.
It's not. I mean, the tooling here, Eric was sick the previous week. I was sick this time. But the tooling for eventmodeling.ai is practical. With OpenClaw, I don't see this taking longer than the next 4 weeks for people to not be using.
Exactly. But this is the current bottleneck, creating those event models.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more tooling and a little bit more AI maybe, and then this is solved. And if this is solved,
I don't think we need more AI.
This is really this is something that people don't see coming. And no. I still see people argue, "Oh, event sourcing is too complicated.
Oh,
we cannot do event sourcing. This is not."
Yeah, there's absolutely no excuse to throw away information at this point. The amount of, look how expensive things are now. This should tell you something, that how important information is. Look at the price of memory and everything that is so important. Information is so critical, and I don't know how someone with a straight face can say my system can throw information away. Yeah, or just throws away information. Like, why would you give that person money?
That's literally insane. But the combination event modeling, event sourcing, slices is exactly what you need to build software lightning fast. If you say you don't need this, or this is not your target architecture because event sourcing is not what you're doing, you're clearly missing the point. This is not possible with any other architecture. You need exactly this combination. This is what works.
Yeah. I think people are going to come, the deniers are going to give it a different name and say, "Oh, no, we call it this thing." It's like, no, you were just stupid, and you can't admit that you were ignoring the better solution for years, and now you'll be embarrassed to say that you have to do it. It's unfortunate, but that ego thing is just like all over the industry, and someone's going to say, "Well, I don't believe in event sourcing, or I don't believe in event modeling." I'm like, it doesn't matter. I don't believe in gravity, and I'm just going to walk off the side of the building. Gravity's there, buddy. It doesn't matter. Just like this,
I see these comments are everywhere on LinkedIn still. I mean, I write about event sourcing every single day on LinkedIn, and every single day somebody approaches me and says, "Well, it's nice what you're writing, but you're clearly not living in reality because event sourcing is far too complicated for the typical team." No. What a nonsense!
Yeah, I know.
Complete nonsense. Yeah. Event sourcing is far easier than any of your architectures. This is complete nonsense, but it's everywhere, really.
Yeah. The FUD knows no boundaries, and it's kind of funny because the industry's going so fast, and these people are just going to get absolutely ground up. It's like a freight train coming at them, and they're not getting out of the way, and they're going to be minced meat underneath those tracks, like they're underneath those trains. They're going to get so eaten up, and literally the jobs are being taken away. Like, that is the reality. There is no reason to have, at least with the same skills that we used to have. There's no way that aside a few things, our highest end developers are still going to communicate with a computer faster through code than they do with words. There's that, but it's a 1% or less, right? Yeah. And they're totally fine with doing that. They don't want a prompt, and I agree with them. They literally use the syntax, and they've abstracted things to a level and made helper scripts and all that allows them to go faster than AI, because they literally can express what they want in computer language faster than they or I can express in English. But it's a small percentage. And for people to think that that's the majority is the huge mistake. That is a very, very small select few people out there that are effective at communicating using programming languages, and unfortunately the people that are the worst at that, which I think you're hitting with your comments on LinkedIn, is the people that maybe are in that 1%, and their ego is that everyone should be this smart, or this should always be a job for everyone. And it's sad, unfortunately, because it's just an attitude problem at this point.
I think so too. And I mean, writing beautiful code, designing beautiful architectures, that's all nice, but in the end, it will just be a hobby and nobody will pay you for this. So maybe it's time to just move on. I really think writing code is something that bots will do overnight. I want them to do it while I sleep.
Oh, I don't think it'll take that long.
Yeah, I know, exactly. But what's the point arguing in that? Just look at what happened in the last 3 months. Just look at the last 3 months. What happened in the last 3 months?
In the last month.
It's crazy.
It's not slowing down. There's the open. It seems like the innovation is already there. What's happening is, just like with the web, is that the of where that innovation is allowed to go is expanding. Because no one was thinking that, I can just open up my large language model to go ahead and run arbitrary commands on the command line for me, or be able to say, I can take the output from those commands on my system and feed them back into prompts. That no one was willing to say that should be a common practice or whatever. Even for coding, even if you're not talking about accessing your system, even for coding, it's like, I don't know, it'll do too many things, or it'll get confused, or whatever. The surface area of what AI is allowed to touch has increased, for better or for worse. And I think think about HTML and adoption of the web. Who would have dared to type in their credit card number on a fishy website in 1995, right? No one.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the same thing, right? This is like, who would have thought to let ChatGPT answer their email from grandma, right? Now we're doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I don't know. And I mean, you're right. There's also like the actual technology underneath. I mean, you have, a couple of other things that happen in AI is that, the voice conversations. NVIDIA just did this thing where it'll talk at the same time. So there's none of this like awkward pause. I say something, then I wait for the AI to say something back. It's fluid now. Google did this thing where they're doing, all of the next token processing. They're doing it in parallel. So like the second and third and fourth and fifth words are being done at the same time as the first word, and stuff like this. So yeah, there's like underneath all of this, the tech itself is moving, but I think it's important to realize that the endpoints and things that we are allowed to have AI interface with is also grown, or at least the possibilities are now are further explored, and things that we didn't think were possible are possible, and things that we didn't want them to do, we are allowing them to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One thing that really makes me happy with all this progress we are making is every time we make one of those leaps, like now with the OpenClaw and stuff like that, it's just like I get a confirmation. Okay, I can do the things I already did anyways. Now it's faster. Yeah. I'm not doing anything different. It's just I work with spec-driven development for 4 years now.
Yeah, exactly. That's the irritating thing, is that people that have been in the behavior-driven development and spec-driven development, or a specification by example, for over 2 decades are finally saying like, I told you so. I told you so. This is the way to do it. Like, oh, look, we discovered spec-driven development. Like, no, you didn't. You just got like slapped in the head that you can't be irresponsible and expect to have, systems that don't fit, that break and are unmaintainable, quote unquote, and all the other problems.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what's important for people to understand is that things haven't been cured overnight. The establishment is still there, and they're getting absolutely creamed. Apple beat their estimated earnings. Their stock didn't go anywhere. Microsoft smashed. All the cloud stuff, all the software. You look at Salesforce, Adobe, all that. They know the writing's on the wall. They are dead. There is no way to pivot because that entire area of software is gone. I mean, I don't know. There's people still talking online how they're like, oh, look, Adobe's cheap to buy. Are you kidding me? Just go set your money on fire in your yard. It's the same thing. There's no way Adobe's recovering. No way.
Yeah.
It's like there's no place for it unless they just switch to being some sort of AI company, or they start to hold Bitcoin or start to hold Nvidia shares to wrap it with some other service, like the strategy and other, I don't know. All these things are just shell games. That's what's happening, and what that's indicating is that the entire industry is different, and these are just the dying throes. Like the thing's dead. It's just this is just the nervous system twitching as it's dead already. That's how I see it.
You see the first steps if you look at what's happening to Tesla now. They changed their whole product model. They skip all their flagship products, Model S and stuff like that, and they completely focus on AI.
Absolutely, yeah, and robotics and all of that. I mean, the next interface, and whether you like him or not, Elon has a point. What is that surface level for AI? That surface level extends to the physical world, right? We have robots that are shipping things at Amazon, right? People underestimate. What do you think happened to Amazon? They had a bookstore. What did they start selling? They started selling how they run their servers.
Yeah.
Amazon has a ton of automation to build out the hugest logistics thing ever in history. Who's going to win when they start to sell how robots work? I'm pretty sure it's Amazon, because it's, again, the same story, right? Same thing with AI. Hey, OpenAI is going to take over all that. Well, guess who was gathering all of the information in the world? It was Google. It was indexing every single thing. Who's got the best training data? And who was actually doing this behind the scenes secretly? People are saying, oh, Apple's the one that's like been waiting to pounce out and do some AI. No. That's Google, and it's already happened. Google already did the tensor stuff. They had the engineers. They had the investment in time and brain power and innovation. Yeah. And they're the ones that are taking this. It's not Apple. Apple didn't wait until let these pioneers get killed and then we'll be the settlers. BS. That's too late, man. It's over. They missed it and they know it. Apple Intelligence was their foray into it. They thought they could half-ass it, and no. They thought they were going to be carried by the tide of everything. No. And they're getting their ass handed to them, rightfully so. And others will too. Salesforce, all of these Adobes, any of these things, don't even bother. It's just no point. Very opinionated podcast today.
Interesting times, isn't it? Interesting times.
Yeah. So what's on the let's change the subject for one thing. How is your week planning going? How are the clients doing? I don't know. What are you doing this week?
What do you mean? Is there anything different than AI?
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, here's another thing that I've noticed is that I am able to do the automation that I want to way better with OpenClaw. I mean, yes, I could do the scripts myself before and all that. And I'm noticing it even for this episode, for doing the episodes. There's I have to edit it to kind of put pictures in and do whatever and come up with some names and have that MP4 to be uploaded. But I noticed that the scripting that I was doing was semi-automated. I would still pop up oh, where's your MP3 or where's your MP4, so I can extract the MP3 for the audio version. Okay, it's here. I'm now if I'm going to give it to OpenClaw to actually make the scripts for it, it's I don't want these things to be, asking me. I don't want the terminal-based UI, the TUI kind of thing to prompt me. I don't want that. So it's been quite interesting. I don't see. The other thing is I don't have to be at the computer. So this is all through Telegram now. And I get enough feedback about what I'm doing that I don't have to stare at a large screen. And in fact, if I'm going shopping and I'm at the supermarket, I can just say, oh, I have an idea. I should have this on the podcast. I should have this on the site, or I should have this. I just thought it's either make a note or just do it. Put it in the staging area, and then while I'm waiting in line at the grocery store, I'll look at it oh, that looks great. Okay, publish it.
Nice.
It's a different world.
Yeah.
And I think I've heard people object to OpenClaw, not for the reasons you stated, that, oh, it's too powerful. It's oh, no, I got a good workflow going. And it's you have to be humble enough to say that what you have now is no longer efficient. there's something around the corner that's times 10. And it's like, oh, no, don't distract me. And it's the same old thing about, learning better technical skills or whatever. It's like, don't interrupt me. I'm too busy chopping the tree, right? And I'm here behind them saying, here's a chainsaw. You can do it, 100 times faster. It's right. No. I'm really good with this axe. I just don't interrupt me. I can't be interrupted because then I'll lose focus and I won't get my work done. I see this attitude through, people that I respect in the industry, and they just can't get out of their own way sometimes. But anyway, each to his own. They'll eventually get there. It's frustrating when people don't want to open the door when it's right there.
Yeah.
I guess we've been feeling that with event modeling forever.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah. So AI. So are you going to be changing anything with your skills for the slices in light of what's happened last week?
Oh, everything evolves constantly. I'm constantly working on improving the workflow. So right now there is nothing planned. I'm pretty happy with my current workflow. But of course, maybe tomorrow, if I find time to dive a little bit deeper into one of those new things, maybe I change everything. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So right now, I'm pretty happy with it. So the last big leap forward was using Ralph Loop. I'm using this heavily. Everything now runs in a Ralph Loop. Mm-hmm. But maybe tomorrow I change everything again. Yeah. It all depends if I find time to experiment a little bit.
What do you find is the next challenge? I mean, I'll tell you what my challenge is once you see if it lines up with what you're going to say.
The next challenge in what?
What do you find tedious about the current tooling, whether it's AI, whether it's whatever? What is, because it's like making the event model was always
that's currently clearly the bottleneck. Everything else is almost completely automated.
But there's always the next level. Like we had, refactoring tools were needed because manually changing signatures was a pain. Is there something equivalent right now in terms of the tooling underneath that level that's not as efficient?
I don't think so. So right now, I don't know anything because after the event model, almost everything is automated right now. I don't touch any of the code.
So my challenge, maybe you have an answer for this. Maybe other people are having the same issue. Is that when you're creating your skills files and prompts, I find that they get wordy, and to actually get through what AI has suggested, sometimes they get too wordy. Sometimes when you have to overstate things, I just see that I'm dealing with a lot of, I'm getting back to the wall of text problem.
Yeah.
That there is no graphical way to see what the prompts are, what the skills are. There's a lot of reading, and I find that organizing, this is one of the reasons that I split it into so many skills. I almost wanted it to be overkill for the amount of skills. I don't want like programming skill, MD, and that's it.
Yeah.
I need to have a ton of skills because I found that trying to get a manifest of how event sourcing works was not the answer. You have to not have it in one space. I don't know if you agree.
Of course. So
right how long do you? What's the limit for the length of a skill file?
But I don't think I'm not sure there is even a limit, because are you reading the skill files? I don't read them. If I need to extend them, I use AI to do so. So I typically
I do that, but I also I do look in there, because if there's something that I can just, if I don't want it, I want to erase an hour of back and forth of prompting just by not having it.
So I don't edit them manually, very, very rarely. So if I see one of the skills doesn't work, I ask AI, okay, why does the skill not work? What's the problem here? And then,
what are your success criteria? Is it like the skill always, like for example, my workflow skill, it always produces a JSON with the name and the description?
Yes, that you need to define clear criteria. When does this thing work? Either it is a test case that is green, or it is a file that gets created, whatever. This has to be crystal clear. When is this task done, and when is it successfully done?
Yeah. So the structure. So use me as a guinea pig. The structure for my workflow skill that gives me a set of workflows is a name and a description. What if the AI puts, like, it looks structurally correct? There's a property called name and a property called description on each item. But what if the name has a sentence in it? What if the description has, code in it instead? How do you, or does that just not happen? Is that extreme level of failure not apparent? See what I'm getting at? I mean, there's ways to say that, okay, on the surface it looks okay. If I run it through like a syntax checker, it looks correct. That the JSON has a structure, but the contents are garbage.
But I mean, then you didn't define the guardrails good enough. Then if you find it, I mean, to me that happens often. I run something, okay, that's garbage. Damn. Okay, what do I need to fix? Okay, some of the skills maybe aren't explicit enough. Then use AI, go back and say, okay, this was the input, this was the output, this is why it didn't work. That's the problem. Okay, tell me, what do we need to adjust so this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I guess you're throwing yourself into the Ralph loop.
And basically, you are running in a Ralph loop until this is done.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, because I mean that's one of the things. Also, what's interesting is that when I set up OpenClaw with using OpenClaw, it asks you a few things like what are your preferences? Like what do you do? I'm like I'm on Linux only. I do this. Don't give me any Windows instructions. Don't give me Mac instructions. Everything always is kept into either desktop or server Linux commands, and use fish shell if you're telling me to run something, things like that. But there's a tools MD and there's a user MD.
Yeah,
I find that it actually shoved a whole bunch of things into user MD that belong in tools MD. Have you noticed this problem?
No, not really.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know why it's happening to me. But I'll have to see. So, anything else? I guess we've really gone for a long time. Well,
yes, we're already over an hour.
So okay, give me in your best explanation why someone that wants to do event modeling and event sourcing, why should they use OpenClaw? What does OpenClaw give them?
You should give me you spend much more time doing this. So
you've actually spent way more time making skill stuff. My skill stuff is I've only started doing it. I've been doing dumb prompting. You're way ahead of me in terms of defining skills in the Ralph loop. So you're actually the expert here. I don't want to put you on the spot. If you say like, I don't know, it doesn't matter, that's fine too.
So the amount of automation is just amazing. I have skills for everything I do. If you want to build a slice, there is a skill. If you want to build a UI thing, there is a skill. I have skills for everything, and I fine tune them all the time. I don't want to do this manually. I want to automate everything I do. I don't want to do this manually. So if you're still writing code manually, you're clearly doing it wrong. At least you should think about, okay, how can I automate this? Because that's clearly not what I should be doing. I should not be writing any code.
Yeah. Unless you're one of those top 1/10 of 1% where you actually are faster by expressing yourself in code.
As long as you're efficient enough, feel free. But so typically,
for everyday people, average developers, that's no longer the case.
I don't think it's even a 1%. That's way less than 1%.
Yeah, it is. I agree. Yeah. Okay. So more AI this week. This month's workshop will be very interesting.
Did we already schedule a workshop? Do we have?
Yeah, it's the end of February. I haven't published the site because guess what? I've been redoing it with AI.
Yeah, of course. What else?
I mean, that's it's. I can't again. I have a second. I don't know what this is. Like you said, there's this aha moment when you first use the Amiga, and you pull down the screen for multitasking. You're like, oh, this is insane. It's another world. So ChatGPT was that for me first time. This is, I think, the second one because it went up a layer where the tool itself is giving me access to how the tool works, whether it's through skills, whether it's through changing, telling it to, I just can't believe that I can tell it to change the model without using a / command in the prompt. That's just awesome. It's I'm shaking my head. It's a great time to be alive, and I am an optimist. I know that you said very valid concerns about the concerns about these things being used for evil and calling your grandparents to rip them off or put people in danger. Yeah, that'll be the
Yeah.
same thing, but it's the same thing like cash or the internet had. To me, it's no different. I think what'll happen is that the same tools, the same AI, OpenClaw, all that, the automations will also be used for good. I mean, it's already being used against spammers, where anyone that has got a call from a spam place, they take that number and they intercept them with AI. So a lot of spammers wasted time talking
Yeah.
to AI without
I
knowing.
love that. I love
I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
you probably saw Kit Boga's videos on
Yeah.
YouTube, right?
Very
Where
nice.
he just wastes. He has got a timer about how many minutes, hours are passing when this person's trying to desperately get that Bitcoin or that gift card number, and it just keeps them in a loop, right? It's quite funny. So I think the same thing will happen. I agree with you. There is concerns, but I also agree that the people that are looking after each other and creating things that are going to protect us are using the same powerful tooling to do that. And it's just, I don't know if you've read the book Stainless Steel Rat by Harry Harrison, and it's a sci-fi book from the 60s or 50s or something.
I
And
don't. I'm not into sci-fi.
it's a good. I mean, I read it in high school. So
Yeah.
anyway, the story stuck with me because it's kind of like the same thing with piracy. People pirating games and all that. It's like the law always goes up to like take away the illegal things from this thing, and eventually the crooks become better, and then so the protect ourselves better, and then okay, well, and the idea is that rats are everywhere all the time, and then people build houses out of brick instead of wood. Now that rats can't get in very easily, but the rats become smarter. They sort of learn and all that, and they become more resilient. Maybe they can eat more. Maybe they actually evolve a little bit over tens of thousands of years. Who knows? They adapt and they're more hardened. And the idea is that as these systems become extremely solid, you get to iron houses. And the stainless steel rat means that there will be rats existing when everything's made out of stainless steel and welded shut. There's still going to be rats.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of a neat book. Obviously, the robots in that book were burning coal, so it's not that realistic, but that's what we thought
Yeah.
things would be in the 50s. So anyway, well, that was a full. I think that episode that we had just now deserved the topic discussed to this level, because I think we're at a point where no one can ignore what's happening, and if you think you're not affected, you are, no matter who you are in this world right now. Yeah. So okay, well, Martin, great to record again without us being away or sick or whatever. So back to the regular schedule. And I look forward to reviewing our event modeling AI this week with you. I think
nice.
we'll have something pretty cool for the next workshop.
Amazing. Looking forward to that. For sure.
All right. Have a good week. See you next week.
Same for you. All right. See you next
Bye.
week. Bye-bye.